Are you looking for an athletic scholarship? You're in the right place. This is the Recruit Me Athletic Scholarship Podcast, the longest-running podcast on recruiting and athletic scholarships. We're here to help your family navigate the recruiting road all the way to an athletic scholarship. He's a recruiting expert and a dad of 2 college athletes. He has a wealth of experience to share. Here's Recruit Me CEO, Brent Hanks.
Welcome to episode 318 of the Athletic Scholarship Podcast. The Athletic Scholarship Podcast is a weekly 15-minute recruiting education podcast and is the longest running of its kind in the world. Like or subscribe on your favorite podcast app or listen weekly on recruit-me.com. This week's episode is a little longer than the normal 15 minutes, but my interview guest gives you great recruiting information, not only for baseball, but for all sports. This is part 1 of a 2-part interview with Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds is the current scouting director for PBR Colorado. That's Prep Baseball Report Colorado. I have mentioned Coach Reynolds before because Coach Reynolds was the pitching coach, the recruiting coordinator, and last year the interim head coach for the Northwestern Wildcats baseball team. Coach Reynolds was Parker's pitching coach and was the coach that recruited Parker back in 2017 as Parker entered his senior year of high school. Coach Josh Reynolds pitched for Division II powerhouse Central Missouri State University in Warrensburg, Missouri for 3 seasons before getting drafted by the New York Mets in 2000. He helped lead the Central Missouri State Mules to 2 NCAA Division II World Series appearances and set a school record with 34 wins in his 3 years. After pitching professionally, Coach Reynolds coached at Evansville, Northeast Texas Community College, Kansas State, and then was with Northwestern for 6 years. PBR, Prep Baseball Report, hosts tournaments, showcase, and future games, and houses players' videos, metrics, rankings, and evaluations for high school baseball players in over 40 states and in Canada. PBR was established in 2015, and its mission is to scout and promote amateur baseball in high school, JUCO, and college players to ultimately help these players in playing baseball at the next level. While other organizations are staked in a national approach, PBR's goal is to become the authoritative voice on the ground level of each state. PBR is in 41 states and Canada. PBR has over 800 colleges and pro teams subscribed to be able to see all the videos and metrics of each player. PBR events give a high level of exposure. They give you videos that are edited and hosted on the PBR site, prepbaseballreport.com. Players get an online profile with verified metrics and stats, a scouting report, and evaluation and a picture of the athlete. Each state has its own staff to get to know and contact locally. Both of my sons, Parker and Sutton, participated in some PBR events. Parker did a pitching showcase in St. Louis and a 2-day game showcase at K-State. Sutton played in some PBR tournaments and did a PBR evaluation showcase through his club team. Let's get into part 1 of an interview with Coach Josh Reynolds. I'd like to welcome Coach Josh Reynolds. Let's see if we can jump into some recruiting and some PBR information for the Recruit Me family. So welcome, Coach Reynolds.
Well, thanks for having me, Brent. Good to see you.
I gave a big introduction to you beforehand, so let's just jump right into some questions about PBR Colorado. And the first question I want to ask is, what is PBR Colorado Scouting Director? What do you do?
So what I do is a little bit of everything, so when you're state director, no matter if it's Colorado, New York, you're kind of in charge of your state. So you can have a team with you of interns, social media, coaches who are going to be helping you out. And that's kind of what you have to do. And as of right now, with being so new, I'm kind of putting that team together. We have some good people that were already here in the state, so they've been very helpful from that standpoint. But what we do is we run events, whether that's open events, invite only, prospect type events. And then you got your, kind of your prospect ID where you're trying to identify kind of the younger class and kind of get them rolling through so you can, do your scouting, on those guys as well. So you're prepared for them as they start to get into high school and kind of make their way through. We control the website, so whether that's stories, scouting reports, rankings, player spotlights, like we're we're running the website and kind of making sure that looks, the way it's supposed to look and updated, and making sure that, it's a place that people want to land and kind of check things out. And then scouting is a big part of it, whether that's high school season, summer, fall. We were out scouting games. Like I was at college showcase / team camp this last weekend, and got a chance to see a lot of players from the state of Colorado that I had seen their names, but I got a chance to see them on the field. So that was good to do. So, it's kind of a little bit of everything. Coaches reach out to us, they talk to us about players, so it's everything right now. It's kind of what I'm figuring out, and there's probably going to be more that I learn as I get deeper into it.
And PBR is not just in Colorado. I believe there's 40 plus states and maybe even Canada that has a presence and has a director like you across the country. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
So if a player goes to a PBR event, what are they getting out of that?
For me, what I see, and just coming from the coaching side, I was on Prep Baseball Report's website pretty much every day, so that was something where, like all these events are going on. So you can, whether it's social media or the website, like I was, I was following those states. I was getting onto the website, checking videos, seeing the, quick hitters that they would put out from events to see if a name would pop up that, I want to do some more digging on, and I think the player from that standpoint gets that, like, it's not just regional anymore. It's not just local recruiting. It's a national. And that's what, Prep Baseball Report has been able to offer kids and families of, you're open to every school in the country. It's right there. It's a click that the coach can go check, get verified stats, get quality video, and decide if they're interested in you or not. So that's really the way I look at it from that standpoint, from a kid standpoint. But then also they get to look at, like, if you come your freshman year and you put up, hey, this is my 60 time, this is my exit velocity, this is my throwing velocity, here's what my video looked like. To then if you come again your sophomore year, did I get better? Am I improving? Am I working in the areas that I need to work? And now here's some better video that I can send out, to college, coaches all over the country. And then I think that the main thing is what the kids get is verified information. We're not sending out just, hey, this guy threw 89 and typing it up on the website just because, some coach said it. It's like they have to come to an event to see what their stats are, and then that's what goes out.
So when you were looking over at PBR as a college coach, you knew that they were probably playing good competition. You knew that there was verified information, and you knew the video was very accurate.
Yeah, I don't know if the competition, like at some of the events, yes, like the futures games, we knew that they were going to be playing against good competition. I think the video is probably the biggest part of Prep Baseball Report. You get a chance to, if I, as a college coach, I would get an email from a kid who I'd never seen before. I could search his name, I could pull up the video, and then I can look at it and say, yes, no, maybe, this is a follow. To where that's just from a time standpoint, it just makes things so much easier just knowing that, like, hey, if this kid has this video and I can see it and it's, recent, then that tells me if I need to put them on the list to go out and scout, them during the summer, or make sure I get a chance to see them at a tournament during the summer.
As you went to events as a college coach, what did you look for in a player, obviously, besides being a very good player, but what kind of things are you looking for as a player goes through the showcase or goes through the tournaments, things that would give them a plus or a minus maybe on your clipboard?
Well, I think you're looking at different things. So if it's a showcase style event, so if I was to go as a coach to a Prep Baseball Report event, a workout, a showcase, whatever you want to call them, I think you're looking for more like just potential, skill set, size, because you're not going to necessarily see a true gameplay in that setting all the time. There may be gameplay, but it may be 5 hitters per inning or something that nature, just to kind of get the event rolling and make sure everybody gets their time and at bats. If you're going to a tournament and you're actually going to watch gameplay, that's when you're trying to find out, like, if they can play the game, right? Like, you go to a showcase, you look at their potential, you look at their swing, you look at their exit velo, you look at their arm strength, you look at their run time. Now you go to a tournament, and does that play in a game? Because I've seen plenty of guys that are good runners that don't steal a base or they don't run hard in the game. I've seen a lot of guys that have take wonderful BPs, but it doesn't translate into a ball being thrown at them from a pitcher with spin on it. So I think those are the things that you kind of try to figure out is like, if you're just recruiting from a showcase, you're probably going to get yourself in trouble. You have to go out and watch kids play. And it's the same thing. Like tournaments, the more you can see them, like if you can sit on a hitter for 3 or 4 games and see, 7 to 10 ABs, you're gonna walk away with a pretty good feeling of who that player is. If you can go see a pitcher throw a couple weekends, you're gonna have a pretty good idea of who that pitcher is. And I think that's the thing with the tournaments, that you want to see like them against competition, right? Like if I go watch a pitcher and he's facing a lineup where there's not a Division I or a college player on that lineup, what did I really see? Where I could go watch him face a team full of Division I and he get hit around a little bit, but that's when you learn more, because did he compete? Was he able to, control his emotions? Did he get those hitters out? Did he have anything that was swing and miss to put guys away? It's not always just about throwing a no hitter. Like that doesn't necessarily tell us what we want to see if the team doesn't have a guy on the lineup that is a very good hitter. So you want to see them play against somebody in a tournament that is like pretty good. But then, like when you're looking for players, it's kind of the same thing. It's size, it's athleticism. Can they run? What's their quickness like? The strength is a big part of just like, are they already matured? Do they have a full beard on their face, at 14 years old? Because then the projection is probably not necessarily going to be there. So I think you look at all of those things and you put them all together, and then that's when it's like, okay, do I like this kid? Do I want to recruit them? Do I want to offer them or not?
And sometimes you see things on social media that talks about coaches are always watching, before the game, how you warm up, how you run on and off the field, how you react after a maybe a bad mound appearance or a bad at bat. Are those things that can put you on a list or mark you off a list at a showcase or a tournament as college coaches watch you?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, we see a lot of stuff on Twitter that I just laugh at, because if a kid is, kind of going through the motions before the game, but he goes 4 for 4 with a really good swing and he can really run and he can really throw, I don't think that's going to take him off anybody's list. I think sometimes what we forget is that they're kids, right? They're kids, and maybe they haven't been coached the right way. Maybe they haven't been taught the right way. Maybe the expectations aren't that way at whatever school they may go to or their summer program. So there's some things that you can teach out of them. And if you're marking off guys based on little things like that, you're not going to have anybody to recruit. Like they come in and like, if you're a real coach and what you're trying to do, it's not just on the field, you're trying to develop them as human beings and people too, and helping them mature and grow. And I think that's part of being a coach is, hey, maybe he doesn't have a good routine, teach him a good routine. Hey, this is what a routine looks like. This is what you're supposed to do. Maybe they act a little goofy and throw their helmet and do that. Like, we'll talk to them about it. Hey, this is why you don't do this. This is what it looks like. This is what it leads to from the outside perception, So I think when I see stuff like that, I usually just laugh. And I remember back when I was a kid, like I probably did a lot of dumb stuff, when I was on the field or playing a sport. But it's because if I didn't know, I didn't know. I need somebody to tell me like, hey, this is why you don't do that. And everybody else that's tweeting those things does the same stuff, right? And did the same stuff. So I'm glad that we don't punish kids and with everything, and everybody doesn't punish them, because we wouldn't have enough players if we just based it off all the little things. So yes, I think there are some guys that do that, probably, but I think the majority, I think if what you're really looking for is, once you start talking to a coach or somebody who knows the kid, is he a good kid? Is he respectable? Does he work hard? Is he a good teammate? I think those things, can change how you view a guy just because he might have thrown his helmet in the dugout after a strikeout. That might have been the reason he thinks they lost the game. It's because you like that competitiveness too, right? So there's some things that you can't teach with some guys that, hey, maybe he's competitive and he's really competitive and he threw his helmet. Let's teach him how to be competitive in a different way.
It may be his 60th game of the summer too.
Yeah.
Maybe 103 degrees and he's worn out. So
yeah.
But and that's some of the big things is, you want the kids to carry themselves. I always wanted my kids to carry themselves in a professional way, but like I said, they are kids, and sometimes you tend to give them a break if they make a little mistake in front of you there, because they're They're playing a kid's game. So I know Parker emailed you and invited you to a showcase whenever he was in the Chicago area. Is that one of the things that a student athlete should do before or after a PBR event? And do you encourage players to email coaches before and after your events?
I think it kind of depends on where you are in your progress at that point, right? So if you're a freshman in high school and that's your first event, it may not be the time to email the coach, right? Like I always try to tell kids that like email a coach a video when it's time to send that video. If I'm a freshman in high school and I'm 5'8", 115 pounds and I'm throwing 50 miles an hour, like what am I emailing there? So I think it's just like kind of when you're ready, that's when you need to be doing that. You may email a coach about hey, what's your baseball program like? What are you looking for in a player? What type of skill set does your shortstop and your center fielder or your catcher need to have? Or what are you looking for in a hitter? That way, like, hey, if I'm interested in these schools and this is what they're telling me, then this is maybe what I need to have. Or if you go to a camp, like just listen and figure out like what they're telling you, like these are the types of players. That way, you know what you need to work on. And if you don't fit that mold, maybe hey, we like big hitters. We like 6'4" and above pitchers, like in you're 5'10", like maybe this isn't the school for me, or hey, we don't steal. We just like try to hit bombs. Well, this is my game. This is who I am. Maybe this isn't the place for me. So I think if you just got to pay attention to things like that and ask questions, depending on your age, so once you get up to a point where maybe you're a sophomore, maybe you matured a little bit, you got a little bit of strength and now the video is kind of like there, maybe, hey, I'm kind of sitting right at that average to above average for velocity or speed or whatever it may be. Now it may be time to, hey, coach, I'm interested, depending on if it's an academic school or not, here's my academics, and here's my video, here's the link. Appreciate you checking it out and taking a look. I think that's kind of when it depends. Cause like, I just remember getting videos and it's like, okay, I'm a freshman in high school and it's like, okay, like, what am I looking at right now? I don't know. The kid is tiny. I don't know what his parents may look like to know if he's going to be any bigger. Obviously he's going to mature some, but what's that going to look like? So I think those are some things where it's like when it's time, it's time. And then there are some schools that recruit the younger ages, right? But they're recruiting the guys that are no brainers right now. Like you can go watch them and it's like, yeah, that guy looks like he could be pitching on a college campus right now or hitting on a college campus.
And a lot of people on the PBR look at the rankings, and that obviously helps the higher level players in each state. But if you're not a D1 prospect, how does PBR help?
I think that's who we really like help more than anybody. The guys who are going to get a scholarship and have a place to play are going to find a place to play, right? Like obviously we like them to come because it does help with the rankings because then you get a chance to see guys. And then when we go out and scout, we like to go watch those guys because then you can kind of, do the rankings and kind of put that out there. You can kind of have an idea of who we're going to pick for the futures games, the Super 60, which is for draft guys, or the pro cases, which for the draft potential guys. But I think the guys that we can really help out are those lower level guys, the NAIAs, the JUCOs, the Division IIs, Division IIIs, because that's where you find your the programs at those schools may not have the money to travel all over the country to go recruit, but they can spend $300 on a year subscription to Prep Baseball Report, and they can see all the kids in the country. They can check out your video, they can see your stats, they can read the stories, they can follow the events. So I think that's where it's kind of geared to, being able to help those schools out because they don't have the extra money to go from Florida to California to Georgia to New York to Colorado to you name it to go recruit. But if a kid is interested, and he's from Colorado and he's interested in a school in New York, hey, here's my video. What do you think? And now he doesn't even have to leave his couch if he doesn't want to, and he can figure out if he likes anything about that kid.
In this part one of this interview, Coach Reynolds covered his job at PBR, what PBR does for and provides student athletes at all levels, what college coaches look for at events, and 3 or 4 more helpful pieces of advice. Next week's episode 319, will be part 2 of this interview. Coach Reynolds will cover what stats and metrics are important and what the timing is in recruiting at the different levels, and that strength and mental strength are important for a recruit to pursue. Listen next week to get more details about all these points and more. Check out all the links in this episode's show notes. I invite you to join the all-new Recruit Me monthly newsletter. You get a free monthly newsletter filled with helpful recruiting information. Join me next Tuesday for episode 319 of the Athletic Scholarship Podcast, part 2 of an interview with Coach Josh Reynolds of Prep Baseball Report, Colorado. Again, thank you for listening, and see you next week.